Dear friends, it's the 8th of October. We're going to talk about Israel a little, and Russia, Ukraine. Now, I'm going to put this disclaimer out. I'm no big fan of the Israeli government. It's heavy-handed, it is racist, and on a religious level too. 400 some incidents against Orthodox Christians under Netanyahu. No one was ever arrested. No one was ever arrested. This was all by ultra-Orthodox who were committing these acts. Now, as far as governments go, they're not the worst that could be there. They're, considering half the governments that surround them, it could be much worse. Having said that, and they are heavy-handed against the Palestinians. Very heavy-handed. And with American fingers in it, you know there's going to be war. The West created the Islamic Jihad. The Islamic Jihad, we all know, whether it took place with bin Laden's group in Afghanistan, then fighting, murdering civilians in Syria, like IGIL, ISIS, and other scum like that, Hamas. It's all creations of the West. I mean, it's no big secret. If people don't know that, they need to wake the hell up. And Hamas is not the PLO. The PLO is in the East Bank. Hamas took over Gaza Strip back around 2014. And when they did, they had a blood orgy because they killed off all of their enemies. There are still Christian Palestinians living in Gaza, but they keep a very low profile. And Hamas doesn't exactly tolerate Christians either. There are Christian Palestinians that are fighting for Palestinian rights. There are Christian Palestinians that are actual fighters. Those are all on the East Bank. Palestinians, about a third of Palestinians, 20 to 30% are either Orthodox Christians or Catholics. So there's that. Now, and it is a bit of a karma. Well, Israel's an interesting place too. Israel feeds the Ukrainian war. It gives them equipment. At the same time, if Ukrainians put up a Ukrainian flag in Israel, it's 10,000 shekel fine. Oh, quite literally, yeah. That's a lot of money for them. And they'll get kicked out of the country. So it's kind of a schizophrenic approach. And there are quite a few Jews with Ukrainian backgrounds that left Israel and went to fight for the Nazis. Żydobanderovцы. Is what they call themselves. So anyways, if you don't know, Žid as a word is the old Slavic word for Jew. It's used in almost all Slavic languages. In Russia, in old Russian writings, it's still it's used. But then about the 1800s, it became a slur. Something like kike is a slur in German for Jews. Same thing with Žid, even though it was the word for Jews. Yevrei is a modified German word, Juden. It became Yevrei, which is the Russian word now for Jews. Back in the 1880s, the Tsarist government, so this is Alexander III. I think it's Alexander III. It might have been already Nikolai II. They forbid the use of the word Žid in the literal language because it was now associated not as the word for Jews, but as a slur. So the fact that certain Jews, like Kolomoisky, call themselves Żydobanderovцы, you already got it. It's kind of like blacks in America calling each other nigger. Not Negro, but nigger. It's the same thing in that way. But, I'm not going to try to understand it. I don't have the time, the patience, or the mental capacity to understand that idiocy, or any desire to. But okay. So there's a bit of karma. Murder of civilians, which is what Hamas has done, first and foremost. Okay, if they took out military bases, they killed soldiers, that's war. Okay. Soldiers are soldiers. They're able to defend themselves. They're able to take lives themselves. That's combat. That's how life is. You start targeting civilians, you become animals. You take prisoners, then beat and rape them and murder them on camera, you're animals. That's what the Nazis in Ukraine do. The Ukra-Nazis do the same thing because they're the same animals. They're subhumans. Not because of genetics, but because of their chosen actions. They make themselves subhuman. Even most animals don't do what these people are doing. I'm talking to a lot of people online. And I already knew this, but it just confirmed further. The genetic code of Western civilization is so far from us Russians. Russians don't condone the murder of civilians. We don't do it in Ukraine. We didn't do it in Syria. Yes, there are collateral casualties. Unfortunately, that happens, especially when civilians refuse for one reason or another to evacuate, or when they're used by Western Nazis as human shields. There's collateral damage, collateral casualties in this case. It's very unfortunate. But the civilians are not the target. In this case, the civilians are the target. I'm sure the Israelis are going to respond in same. There's going to be plenty of Palestinian civilians, women and children killed. And thank God we're not like all of you. I'm not saying every German and every Englishman is like that. And quite a few become Russianized because they learn something different, especially when they come here. They Russianize. Everybody Russianizes. And their mentality changes. You know, a lot of these guys on some of these sites, but we love the Russians, so all the Jews need to die. Oh, okay. So that what makes you different from 1940s how? Okay, so then it was, let's kill off all the Russians too. Oh, today we love the Russians. Tomorrow we'll hate you again and be out to murder your women and children. Because, that's part of our genetic cultural code, is genociding somebody. I mean, Europe's been doing it, and America's been doing it for hundreds of years. Europe for thousands of years. Civilians were never left alone in any European wars. You know, when Suvorov took Milan, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. When Suvorov took Milan, the Milanese probably don't remember these things anymore because it's not convenient for them to remember. The Milanese brought their daughters out to kiss the hands of the Russian soldiers. You know why? It was forbidden to rape, pillage, and murder. And the normal European practice is 3 days. If after a hard-fought battle, you took a city, you had 1 to 3 days, depending how generous the commander was, to do as you wish. The Russian army was under very strict orders. Anybody murdering, pillaging, raping, robbing was hung. There were no exceptions. The Russian army marched in, they took control, and they marched on to keep fighting the French. There was no rape and pillage. We didn't rape and pillage Paris. We didn't murder off Berlin. As a matter of fact, the first day of the Battle of Berlin, the first damn day, the first sections of the city that were taken, the Russian army, the Red Army, turned around and set up kitchens to feed the population that was now under a Russian sector. And when Hitler started flooding the tunnels, the subway tunnels, there were lots and lots of German civilians down there. And the German military that was down there were trying to get them out. And Russian soldiers, Soviet soldiers, threw themselves into those tunnels. And quite a few drowned in the process to pull civilians out. That's the difference between us and you. There will always be the difference between us and you. If we were like you, there would be no West. We would have exterminated all of you. Except maybe Portugal. I don't think they ever did anything to us. Yeah, maybe the Irish. They didn't do too much to us either. Though they are now supporting the Ukra-Nazis, and so are the Portuguese. If we were anything like you, you'd all be extinct. You would have never been born, most of you. We would have exterminated your great-great-grandfathers and on before that. And that's the difference between Orthodox Christians, us, and you. We don't have just wars. Just wars is a Catholic-created myth, a heretical teaching. It's one of those teachings from Augustus that the Orthodox Church never accepted, the whole Church never accepted, until the Catholics broke away. And the Protestants were happy to accept that too. Oh, they like a good war. That's the difference between us and you. We don't butcher civilians. We don't kill civilians. And this just confirms what I already knew. Good to have confirmation once in a while. Wish it was different, but... And those of you who aren't like that are living in those kinds of societies. My only advice is immigrate. Immigrate to Russia. You have like-minded people. Otherwise, you'll continue to live in satanic, in the satanic shithole that is the Western civilization and everything it touches. The Islamic jihadists that it created, and all the other wars and chaos it creates. Pretty sure if you chop America's fingers off of the Middle East, just like the moment the Chinese came in, now there's peace between Sunni Saudi Arabia and Shiite Iran, and Yemen's at peace, or becoming peaceful. After how long of a civil war? All it took was getting the Americans out, getting their grubby fingers out of that war that they were making money off of. I'm pretty sure if you did the same thing with the Palestinians, not Hamas, but with the PLO and the Israelis, you could meet some kind of peace. But we'll live and see. For now, it's just going to be now a lot of civilians dying, and as this continues. The West, well, particularly the U.S., is making money off of this, is thrilled. The Ukrainians aren't too happy because they're now losing popularity in the whole scheme of things, and Zelensky can't afford that. But, so there is a silver lining for us in this. There'll be a lot less equipment heading to Ukraine because they'll be heading into the Middle East, to Israel. So we'll live and see. Cheers. God bless.